The media lies again. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, a lot, and I mean a lot to talk about today. But here is a story that you probably haven't heard or haven't seen over the last 48 to 72 hours because the fake news corrupt corporate media, and my God, are they corrupt, don't want you to hear or see this story. Why? Because another media lie, another media hoax has been exposed. If you remember, there was a horrific crash early in Trump's presidency in which an American Airlines flight was flew into a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter, and there was a collision right near Reagan National Airport, and 64 people died on the American Airlines flight, and 3 pilots in the Black Hawk were killed, 67 people dead in all. And immediately, the media began with their narrative, their false narrative, that this was because there were not enough air traffic controllers at Reagan Airport. This was because of Trump and Musk and Doge and too many cutbacks, too quickly, too soon. They kept saying over and over again, there was only one controller overseeing the descent of the flight and coordinating the Black Hawk as it navigated around the airport. And so what the media strongly implied was that this accident, this mid-air collision, was caused not by pilot error, no, not because a fundamental mistake was made within one of the 2 cockpits. No, it was Donald Trump. Trump was to blame. Elon was to blame. Not enough air traffic controllers was to blame. Doge was to blame. That Trump had blood on his hands. 67 dead people to be exact. Well, and you can see that there was something smelled wrong from the beginning. Because there were 3 pilots on that Black Hawk helicopter. They released the names of 2 of them. And that was Staff Sergeant Ryan Austin O'Hara, 28 years old, Georgia. Chief Warrant Officer Andrew Lloyd Eves, 39, of Great Mills, Maryland. But the 3rd name, they kept refusing to release the 3rd name. And eventually they did. But why did they wait so long? They waited days and days and days after the crash so the military could scrub her social media. And that should have told us everything. The 3rd pilot's name was Rebecca Lobach. Lobach. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. Now, after an exhaustive report, guess what? It wasn't air traffic control's fault. There could have been 2, 4, 8, 16. There could have been 100 people in air traffic control. That was not the problem. The problem, my friends, was pilot error. The problem, my friends, was that Rebecca Lobach, as we suspected at the time, and now has been officially confirmed, was a DEI hire. She only had 45 hours flying experience. More than that, she served as an aide to Joey, to Dementia Joe, to then President, or just before the accident, President Joe Biden. And so she was politically connected. She was a young female, up and coming, G.I. Jane. And they said, you know what? We want her as a co-pilot. We want her helping to guide and spearhead this Black Hawk helicopter. And that's what ultimately got everybody killed. According now to new details about the fatal crash, it has now come out that Rebecca Lobach repeatedly, and I mean repeatedly, ignored warning after warning from her male co-pilot, the Army flight instructor, who was at the right seat, okay? He was right beside her, that she had to turn away. He kept saying over and over, plane coming, turn away, plane coming, turn away. And instead, she literally flew straight into the passenger jet. Now, according to the New York Times, and you know me, I rarely quote the New York Times, but they got the report and they published the report, as did many other media outlets, and then they tried to sweep it under the rug, because the fallout now from this is going to be immense. But in the Sunday New York Times, quote, not only was the Black Hawk flying too high, but in the final seconds before the crash, its pilot failed to heed a directive from her co-pilot, an Army flight instructor, to change course. The Black Hawk was 15 seconds away from crossing paths with the jet. Warrant Officer Eves then turned his attention to Captain Lobach. He told her he believed that air traffic control wanted them to turn left toward the East River bank. Turning left would have opened up more space between the helicopter and Flight 5342, which was heading for runway 33 at an altitude of roughly 300 feet. And then the fatal mistake. She did not turn left. In fact, what is now clear in the report is that she deliberately did not turn left. Now, there are only two possible conclusions that you can draw from this. Okay? It's door one or door two. Either this woman, and I don't think it is door one, to be honest. I don't think so. I don't think there's any evidence, but I don't know. They scrubbed the social media page. So who knows what she said on her social media page? And who knows what the military's trying to cover up? Because there was tremendous pressure on her to be a very successful pilot. Because she wanted to be one of these leading women who are able to handle a Black Hawk. And the Biden regime made a big deal about it. And there were a lot of high-profile pieces on her beforehand, and she was close to Joey. Was this suicide? Was this suicide? Was this intentional? Did she intentionally not turn left and take that, pilot that Black Hawk straight into the plane? Did she commit suicide or God forbid terrorism? I don't think that is, but God forbid terrorism and kill 67 people? Or, which is what I think is the much more likelier scenario, but again, I'm open if people wanted to, talk to me about this, but I'm definitely open. I'm not, wedded to this position. But to me, the second option is she froze. She panicked. She panicked. It's not so much that she wanted to deliberately put the Black Hawk into the plane and kill herself and kill everybody. Again, although I'd love to see her social media page now, I'd love to have a more thorough investigation of what she was saying in private, on email, to her friends, text messages. But to me, the more likelier scenario is she was not ready to be a Black Hawk co-pilot. She shouldn't have been flying that helicopter on that day. Diversity, equity, inclusion. DEI equals die. When you put people in positions that they are not capable of and haven't earned the merit, the right to be there, especially in very dangerous positions and jobs, this is what usually happens. People get killed. And so when they saw the airplane flying right at them at the exact same altitude, barreling down at high speed, and her male co-pilot, the flight instructor, said, turn left, turn left, turn left, she just froze. She wasn't ready to pilot the Black Hawk helicopter. They promoted her too high, too fast, because they wanted a female co-pilot at all costs. This is now the new, it was Biden's military. It was the G.I. Jane military. And because of this, and now there's no disputing it, this has nothing to do with the air traffic control. It doesn't matter. 1, 2, 4, 8, it doesn't matter. Nothing to do with Doge. This accident was preventable. This accident occurred because of Rebecca Lobach's pilot error. And that Black Hawk went straight into that plane. 64 dead on the passenger jet, 3 dead in that helicopter. DEI killed 66. 618 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, the co-pilot's name, the late now, obviously, sadly, she passed away, Rebecca Lobach. It has now come out through an internal investigation by the military that she clearly was the one responsible for what happened at Reagan National Airport, that tragic mid-air collision between a passenger jet, 64 people on board, and the Black Hawk helicopter that she was co-piloting, 3 service members on board, 67 people dead in all. As I said as I was leaving the break, DEI murdered 67 people. Another media hoax exposed. The media lied again. Nothing to do with air traffic control, how many controllers, Donald Trump cutting the federal bureaucracy, Elon Musk. That's what the media kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Instead, it was a female pilot, an aide to Joe Biden, inexperienced, clearly was not ready for prime time, who either committed suicide. I mean, I'm just giving you what they didn't make any conclusions. They just said, was repeatedly told by her flight instructor, a male co-pilot, turn left, turn left, turn left. The passenger jet is coming in at 300 feet at that same altitude. And this was about 15 seconds before the actual collision. Turn left. In other words, get out of its path. And she just kept going and flew right into the jet. I mean, right into the jet. So either this woman had some kind of a death wish, either this was suicide or terrorism, or which I don't think it is. But then again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it does bear repeating. They took 3 days to scrub her social media page. Everybody was saying there were 3 pilots, 2 men, 1 woman, Rebecca Lobach. Why is it that the 2 male pilots, co-pilots, their names were released immediately, but her name, the military kept secret? They refused to release it. Well, it turns out because they needed time, days and days and days, to scrub her social media clean. Clean. Why? Why? Now, you can speculate till the cows come home. Was it because she was mentally ill? I'm not saying she was. And they were trying to cover that up? Did she have, I don't know, suicidal thoughts? Was it because she was maybe a terrorist? I don't think any of that. Or were they covering it up because if you looked at her social media, you could probably tell this woman is not ready to co-pilot a Black Hawk helicopter with so many jets and planes coming in at such high speeds in one of the most congested airports in the world. That's the problem. When the government begins to cover stuff up, it unleashes all kind of speculation, questions, conspiracy theories. I think they're just covering up the fact, personally, again, I could be wrong, that she was a clear DEI hire, that they promoted her to a position she had no business having, and because of this, the military and the people who promoted her, and these were Biden's people, because remember, she was an aide to Joe Biden. And now because of that, 67 people are dead, including Rebecca Lobatch herself. DEI equals die. Now, before I open up to the phone line, 617-266-6868 is the number. This is from Larry on Messenger. As you know, by the way, Larry, I know I did it privately, but I want to publicly thank you again, Larry, for showing up at the rally on Thursday, providing security right on my right side with the bulletproof vest. There you are, protecting me, and I cannot thank you enough, and you'll never know how much I appreciate it. You're not just a great patriot, you are a great friend. And so Larry, Air Force veteran, served many years in the Air Force. This is what Larry messaged me on Messenger. Good morning, Jeff. Well, good morning to you, Larry. In my position in the United States Air Force, we had to deal with a phenomenon called prop hypnotism. Airmen could literally be hypnotized by focusing on the spinning engine props and occasionally start walking towards them. My thinking is like you said. She got too focused on an object and locked up. Larry, look, you may be right. You're the expert. I'm not. Slight disagreement. Not even disagreement. I could be wrong. I didn't even think it was she's hypnotized by the engine coming at her. And this happens, you say, to many pilots, or could, and you have to train against it, and you know better than I do, so I defer to you, okay? I think it was just pure, she choked. Honestly, I think you're almost giving her, or giving this too much technical credit. I think it was, she wasn't ready, they put her in the plane, or the helicopter, forgive me, she was co-piloting, she should never have been, yeah, she was fine to take a Black Hawk up and down, but not to navigate such a congested airport with planes flying in at such high speed. I think clearly now it's obvious. And I think at that speed, coming in at that altitude, and the co-pilot's like, turn left, like, my God, like, go, turn. I think she just literally froze. Just, out of panic, sheer panic, and boom. Now, I could be wrong, you could be right, but that's what I honestly think happened. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. This is from Mark on Messenger, and again, he always kills it. Jeff, here we have another case of a DEI hire not doing her job, and her incompetence, and the people that put her in this position are responsible for the deaths of those poor people. How about instead of worrying about DEI and hiring people, we hire people that can actually do the job? And just a reminder, Jeff, these were not Trump's policies, because people want to and are trying to blame him for it. He's getting rid of DEI. And by the way, the media is going Thunderdome on Trump for doing that, as is the left and the Democrats. Racism, fascism, sexism. And he's like, no, look at my cabinet. Look at how many women I have in top positions. But you don't just put someone in because of a certain race or a certain gender, because you got to hit a quota, because you're going to get everybody killed. And sadly, that's exactly what happened. Your calls next. 6:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, lines are jammed. When the lines are jammed, I always want to go right to the calls. Best audience in the business. Just super quick. Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent, maybe around the Pittsburgh area, Western Pennsylvania. He's there for us, monitoring stuff on the ground. He's also a Marine, longtime veteran, and he wanted me to relay this to the entire audience, the great audience of Kuhner Country. Jeff, good morning, my buddy and my friend. Well, good morning to you, Dave. I am hearing from my connections that the co-pilot, the female co-pilot, Rebecca Lobach, was inexperienced. And the media, as usual, lied. And look, this has got to end. That's why I'm with Trump again on this issue, and like on so many. We're talking now about not just the wrong person for the job, right people losing jobs and positions they've earned and worked for and deserve. We're now talking about people getting killed. 67 people are now dead. And again, it's not because a woman can't be a co-pilot, obviously. It's that you're rushing, and she was young, she was very young. You're rushing people into positions that they are not ready for. They're incompetent because you want to put a new face on the military, or you want to take it in a new woke direction. And so it's no longer merit that's driving your decisions. It's ideology, it's politics, it's social engineering. There had to be a female co-pilot, young, close to Biden, someone that they had been plugging and promoting. So they put her in that Black Hawk helicopter. And God forbid, usually it doesn't get you killed. Usually you don't have a plane flying, top speed at 300 feet right on the path of where you're going as well. But this time it did. And when she was told repeatedly, turn left, turn left, turn left, and she's not doing anything. She locked up. She froze. And boom, massive midair collision. 67 dead. Let me just read one more. This is from Marianne in Florida. Jeff, Joe Biden murdered 67 people. Blood on his hands again. But quite honestly, God himself could come down and tell these liberals that it was her error, and they're still going to blame Trump, Elon, anybody and everybody that had nothing to do with it. You're still going to see those comments. Mark my words, Jeff. And then she adds, what am I saying? God himself? They don't believe in God. That's a very good point, Marianne. But really, God himself could come down and say, Rebecca Lobach did it. She made the error. She's responsible. Trump. Elon Musk, Trump, Elon. I mean, that's like a rabid dog, like a trained seal. Trump. So you're right. You're completely right. To me, what's incredible, this is a bombshell report. I mean, do you remember how much media coverage? It was wall to wall. It went on for days. It was, forget the biggest story in the country. It was the biggest story in the world. And they threw it right at the feet of Trump and at Doge and these cutbacks, and he's getting us killed. And it turns out it was DEI. You put a female co-pilot that had no business being in that Black Hawk? And can you just imagine being the two co-pilots? Okay, turn left. No, turn left. And you realize, oh my God, she's not going to do anything. And you're going to die. Can you imagine being those poor people on that passenger jet? You think you're landing, you're getting ready. Landing, see family, go back home, your wife, your husband, your children, whatever it may be. And 15 seconds later, you're dead? It's just incredible. And how the military is desperately trying to cover this up. Cover it up, sweep it under the rug, move on. Just move on. Like it never happened. People need to be held accountable. Heads need to roll. A, justice demands it, but B, and this is my final point because I want to go to the phone lines, we don't want this to happen again. If you don't get rid of DEI, it's going to happen again. Am I wrong? So, let me ask all of you, okay? Do you think it was a suicide? That's what some of the chatter on social media is. I don't, but I want to hear from you. Was this possibly even terrorism? I don't believe it, but that's what some of the chatter is. Or do you think she just froze and panicked? And why was the military so determined to not release Rebecca Lobach's name? It took days and days, and why did they scrub her social media? What was on her social media that they didn't want the public to know? 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Jim in Wilmington. You're going to kick us off, Jim. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Listen,
Hi, Jim.
again, I got the news a couple of weeks ago from my brother in regards to this, and he told me that there was some arguing going on with that young woman, and her last words were, "Don't F with me." And he got that in Vegas. He's in Vegas. So 2 weeks ago, we had a
Jim,
discussion
there was an argument with her in the cockpit? Like among her fellow co-pilots?
and her last words were, "Don't F with me." I don't know if it's true 100%. I don't know. But,
ooh. Wow. So you're saying, Jim, what you heard, again, it's unverified, it's uncorroborated, but it's chilling. So they had some kind of an argument. Maybe she felt very defensive, very insecure, because they were telling her, hey, be careful, you're making mistakes or whatever. And they start going back and forth and like, yeah, I'm going to show you. Turn left, blank you. I'm not turning left. Man, you got 67 people dead. Jim, do you think in the end, was this due to incompetence? Or do you think this woman had some kind of a secret death wish?
I think both. But, obviously if she's arguing, she shouldn't have been in that helicopter, period. You got to listen to instructors and your superiors. That's life. We all have to do it. We all answer to someone.
Oh, I agree. Forget a plane, even in a car. When you first learn how to drive, like, Ashton's going to start to learn how to drive soon. And I said, listen, I'm going to pay for, these lessons and an instructor. You listen to the instructor. He or she is the boss. When they say brake, you brake. When they say turn, you turn. You're not going to stand there and argue with them. A, they know, you don't. B, you're going to get yourself into an accident or get yourself killed. And you're going to do that in a Black Hawk late at night at an airport, one of the most congested, trafficked airports in the world, with planes coming in at high speed at 300-400 feet. Ay. Jim, thank you very, very much. Really good call. 617-266-6868. Many of you are texting the Kuhner man, Jeff. What about Trump's 100 days? It's tomorrow. Officially, it's tomorrow. So then we're going to do it tomorrow. So he's had a great 100 days. Forget the media. But more on this next. 6:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, please, you have to listen to this, okay? This is going to blow your mind. Blow your mind. Whatever you're doing, stop. You need to hear this. So, remember Larry, who messaged me earlier, Air Force pilot, many years experience flying planes in the U.S. Air Force. Here's what he wrote me. Jeff, look at it this way. Working 40 hours a week for a year, minus 2 weeks off vacation, that's 2,000 working hours. 2,000 flying hours, equates to a working year of flying. She didn't have nearly the hours to be in such heavy traffic. Now, many of you may be asking, Jeff. Okay, so she was supposed to have at least 2,000 hours. Well, how many did she have? I don't know. 500? Come on, Jeff. 200? Jeff, come on, man. 100 hours flying a Black Hawk. She had 45 hours. That's it. And so I went back to Larry off air. I messaged him back, and I said, Larry, I mean, maybe Black Hawks are different than, I don't know, planes or other choppers or other helicopters. And he said, look, let me compare it to you this way. That's like taking a kid. Okay. Take your Ashton in about a year when he turns 16. With 45 hours behind the wheel. And then you put him, those Formula One race cars in a Le Mans. Those super fast Formula One race cars where you need lightning reflexes, an incredible ability to navigate incredibly high speeds. I mean, these people are insane. They're insane. And yes, you can look it up. She only had 45 hours flight experience. 45 hours. That's it. Okay. This is from Steven on Messenger. And I think he makes a very interesting point. Good morning, Jeff. I believe it may very well have been suicide. Because if she was posting on her social media that she was depressed or she had anger issues towards Trump and couldn't live under a Trump administration, that would be something the Army would want to get rid of, and possibly why they didn't release her name so quickly so other people can find out the information. I believe suicide is actually plausible and most likely. Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, if she was posting on social media, I'm depressed, or I hate Trump, or I'm not happy, or, oh my God, how are we going to live under a Trump presidency? Remember, she was she was an aide to Biden. So she was a Democrat and she was a Bidenista. So yeah, maybe, who knows? Maybe she was battling depression or whatever, suicidal thoughts, or who knows? But again, they scrubbed the social media, and so all we can do is speculate. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, what do you think happened and why? Rick in Tennessee. Thanks for holding, Rick, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Rick.
First of all, according to the Army Times, which is the official news media magazine from the U.S. Army, she had 450 hours. Her rank was captain. The instructor pilot that was giving her check ride was a warrant officer, which would mean in terms of permit or position, a warrant officer is a lower rank than a captain, so she outranked him. However, in an aircraft and on a test ride, it's quite, especially in helicopters, Black Hawks, it's quite common to have your instructor to be a warrant officer. They're just in that position more often. He had about 900 hours. So I don't know where everybody else is getting their figures or their number, but this is from the official U.S. Army Times publication.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Now,
Okay,
Rick,
secondly,
I need to cut you off. I promise I'll let you finish. You have my word. Let's say it was 450, because I'm going by media accounts, and maybe they just forget to put in the zero. Okay, which to me is a huge difference, but let that go, Rick. Let's say it was 450, and I believe you, and you're quoting the Army Times, and so I have no reason to doubt what you're saying. So it's 450. Is 450 enough, in your view? Is that enough?
No. Are you talking to me?
Yes, Rick, please, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said you were going to... Well, she was on a check flight. They were training her to fly the helicopter at night. And you have to, another thing a lot of people I haven't heard anybody explain. She belonged to a unit, or this particular aviation unit that she flew in. Their primary job was military personnel transport. They flew high-ranking military officers and Pentagon officials and politicians from to Reagan International Airport. That was their primary function, their mission in that unit. They were also doing night. They were training her with night goggles, night for flying at night. It's these headsets that you see them wear that allows any pilot to see to have better vision at night. It was in a highly congested area. A lot of people are speculating that that's not a good mix to have she was essentially a trainee. Trainees being trained, being checked out using night observation goggles, in that heavily air corridor. Usually when a crash, it's not just one thing that happens or one incident. It's a series of accidents. Other people are speculating that there was they didn't receive the information from the ATC, the tower, that apparently when the tower was going to speak to her, the air traffic controller, another pilot keyed his mic and would cancel. So the technology there is suspect. However, the bottom line is the person that's the instructor pilot who's teaching or training the pilot in that particular mission, he's incumbent on him to make sure the aircraft is safe. My question to you is, from what I've read, he said he apparently heard that air traffic control broadcast telling them to turn left, turn left. He said it. Apparently his words were something to the effect, ATC says turn left, turn left. 15 seconds, she didn't do anything. She froze for 15 seconds, and then we all know what happened. She actually flew into the side of that aircraft. My question is, why didn't that instructor pilot immediately take control of
override
stick?
her? Yeah, override her. Basically, take control of the stick. Great question, Rick. That's a great question. That's an absolutely brilliant question. Look, I think it's pretty obvious now, just listening to you and putting, again, the audience is the best in the business, and you just put all the pieces together. Let's just objectively, okay? Just as objectively as we can, they took a female pilot, co-pilot, who was being promoted heavily by the Biden administration. She had close ties to Biden himself. They wanted to make her a kind of a poster child for their new military, their DEI military, their woke military, and they began to put her almost in an impossible situation. The way you described it, flying at night, you need all of these night goggles. It's very hard to see. It's dark. You're in one of the most trafficked, congested airports in the world. I mean, this is not easy. This is very hard. And she's the co-pilot. Now, I can just go by what the report says. I'm a prisoner of the report. Well, according to the report, they claim that the instructor, the co-pilot, but the instructor, the male instructor, was saying, air traffic control is saying turn left, turn left. ATC, turn left, turn left. So he told her several times, turn left, turn left. She didn't. She froze. She literally froze. Now, what begs the question is, why didn't he grab the controls himself? Why? Was he under orders not to? Would this be considered sexism or discrimination? I want to know more of the backstory, right? Where they're under tremendous pressure to get this woman, to be a Black Hawk pilot, and you cut corners, and you want to make sure that, in other words, we're going to make her a Black Hawk pilot. You do whatever it takes, okay? And I don't want to hear any complaints from her. So this is what I mean. Look, Rick, to take it a little bit out of this and just overall, in every Marxist society in the world, and DEI is a form of Marxism. I'll give you an example. In Cambodia, Pol Pot was determined that he was going to get rid of the city elites, the elites in the urban areas. And so he didn't just take them and have them go, I'm not making this up. He took them, grabbed them, and had them work in the rice paddies. He turned them into farmers overnight. Well, doctors, dentists, eye doctors, accountants, they are not farmers. They don't know how to farm. It's not a question of being lazy or not lazy or not wanting to get their hands dirty. They just don't know how to farm. So he took these professionals, highly educated professionals, put them in the rice paddies and said, I want you to farm. Go, move, produce rice. And then he took the peasants, many of whom were functionally illiterate, again, through no fault of their own, and put them in the cities and said, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be an eye doctor, you're going to be a nurse, you're going to be an accountant, you're going to be you're going to be a professional. The whole society collapsed. Massive starvation, famine, people were dying in hospitals. It was just an absolute disaster. So now, it's not as extreme as that, but my point is when you take people who are clearly not qualified for the job, not ready for the job, not able to do the job, and you force them into it, people die. It's not just that the job is horrible. It's not just that you get shabby quality. It's worse than that. People die. And I think what's clear, Rick, however you look at it, they pushed Rebecca Lobach to be a Black Hawk co-pilot at a pace, a speed, and a schedule and an intensity that she clearly was not ready for. Maybe she was never ready for it. But at that time, she clearly wasn't ready for it. And 67 people are dead. And to me, where heads need to roll, they need to roll, is we've got 67 dead, and then the cover-up. Why are you scrubbing her social media? To me, I'm sorry, if a mistake was made, fine, mistakes happen. I mean, it's not fine, it's bad, but okay, mistakes happen. So let's get to the truth. Why did it happen? So we can fix it, it never happens again. But when I hear that they scrubbed it clean, now I know something nefarious is going on. They wanted her to be the next G.I. Jane 2.0. And it ended up costing the lives of 67 people. And again, I think you're right. That co-pilot, the instructor, should have overridden her. He should have grabbed that stick. Why didn't he? That's another question that needs to be answered. Or was he ordered not to? Maybe there were issues with her in prior test runs. And he said, no, you're doing it wrong, or whatever. Hey! And he takes over the stick. And she gives him the business. And she says, how dare you talk to me like this, or how dare you do this to me? And she reports him to her superiors or whatever, and they give him a tongue lashing, and he's like, okay, I'm not going to touch anything. I mean, if I touch it, I'm the bad guy. See, I want to know the full backstory. But they were determined to make her a Black Hawk helicopter come hell or high water. And you've got 67 people dead. And what's disgusting above all, Rick, the media knew this. Because I was saying it. Many of you were saying it the day after the crash. So if we knew it, if we can sense it, smell it, suspect it, within 24 hours of the crash, the media didn't? No. Distract and deflect. 67 people are dead. Forget the real cause and the real reason. Blame Trump. Go after Donald Trump. Blame Trump. That's why, Rick, I hate them. I mean that. They have no conscience. They have no soul. To me, they're the devil. That's why I have no respect for the media in this country. As Donald Trump famously said, they are the enemy of the people. And here's another example. Rick, thank you very much for that call. Really good, thoughtful call. Victor in Georgetown. Thanks for holding, Victor, and welcome.
Kuhner, man. You know, the reason I love Donald Trump is that he expects excellence from himself, and he expects excellence from the people that he puts in power. And let's hope he keeps doing a great job. But let me tell you this. I've got over 1,000 hours as a helicopter crew chief. So I'm going to be able to paint a picture for your audience that they're going to understand what happened. Number one, you're right. The report, the news report that there were 3 pilots is wrong. The warrant officer, the co-pilot, the lady, and then the staff sergeant was the crew chief on the aircraft. Crew chief runs everything behind the pilots, make sure the hydraulics are working, everything is working properly. So if you can imagine, Jeff, you're sitting in your car, you've got the steering wheel. Well, in the helicopter crew chief, there's 2 sets of steering wheels, if you will. There's 2 sets of brakes. There's 2 accelerators. The pilot and the co-pilot have the exact same controls. Now, the pilot is what we call a hack, a good hack. It's called a helicopter aircraft commander hack. That means he's the bleeping boss. When I was in Vietnam, would pick up a general to take him out flying because he was a pilot, but he would be the co-pilot, and the pilot was a freaking lieutenant. Okay, and if you understand, the difference between a general and a lieutenant, has virtually no power outside that helicopter regarding a general. But that general knows the hack, who happens to be a lieutenant, is in charge. So what happens is that hack is responsible for everything. The lady that's the co-pilot, notwithstanding anything that you've said, has no decisive input. She follows directions, especially if she was on a certification or a training hop. So that pilot, that hack, is responsible, and if she locked up, he has the controls right in front of him. So that didn't happen, Jeff. He had the controls. She was not in charge of that helicopter at any time. She might have been flying it, but if the ground support said, air traffic controller said, hey, listen, bear left, here's your vector, he's bearing left. It's his job. She's not qualified to make that decision. He is, because he's the helicopter aircraft commander. Now, would I have wanted to fly with someone with only 450 hours of flight time? Probably not. I would much prefer someone with 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 hours, stick time, what we call stick time. But, you play the cards that you dealt, and, I don't know the backstory, but I can guarantee you she's not the one that was responsible for that.
I'm just curious. So what do you think happened? If it wasn't her, what do you think happened?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think that the warrant officer, and it's kind of aligned with what you're thinking, I think he deferred to her because she was a captain and maybe a connected captain at that. So he gave her, he made the mistake of giving her too much credit to make a decision that was his. He should have, if she did freeze up, guess what? You're shoulder to shoulder in that helicopter, one smack and that person's off those, that cyclic, they call it a cyclic stick. And he's back in control if someone froze up. I've had people shot. I've had a pilot shot and fall forward on the cyclic stick, and the co-pilot reach over, push him back so that he could keep flying the aircraft. That's how close you are in the helicopter. The ultimate mistake in any pilot out there who's nodding his head right now is the hack. The helicopter aircraft commander is in charge. Did he defer to her? Maybe. But that was a mistake, obviously. They cost 67 people their lives.
Interesting. Victor. Oh, wow. Victor, thank you very much for that call. So, so maybe it's the co-pilot. And how much pressure was he under to defer to Rebecca Lobach? I mean, again, an honest media, these questions would have been asked months ago. Now, they just want to sweep this story under the rug because it doesn't suit their narrative. Trump, Elon, bad. DEI, good. More with your calls next. 7:18 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from 603. You can text the Kuhner Man. 70470. 70470. Jeff, one question that comes to mind is, was this female pilot taking SSRIs, antidepressants? The reason I ask, this is because SSRIs affect the prefrontal cortex of the brain. And this is where the decision-making process takes place. In other words, did she suffer from depression? Well, that's a great point, 603. Again, we don't know. Because they've done everything now to not just clean her social media, but to scrub her background, any discussion of her background. So, look, as someone put it, I think it was Kyle on Messenger, Jeff, I'm really starting to lose faith and confidence in my government. So am I. Like, just level with us, man. But instead of leveling, they just cover up and cover up and cover up and cover up. And, I'm sorry, it's sickening. 67 people are dead. Their families deserve answers. And I think they deserve to know the truth. And if it was DEI, and I believe it clearly was, and if it was pilot error, as it looks increasingly like it was, then why did you rush her along? Why did you insist that she have to be on that Black Hawk flying at that time at night with the night goggles on in such a highly trafficked, congested airport? Hello, you're playing Russian roulette with people's lives. And it cost us 67. And, who are you trying to protect? I'm tired of this. Everybody is covering up for other people's crimes. So, agree, disagree. You may disagree with me. I'm just giving you my honest answer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. The Kuhner Country poll question of the day. Sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Who ultimately do you think is responsible for that tragic mid-air collision near Reagan Airport between a Black Hawk helicopter and a passenger airline that resulted in 67 people dying? Was it A, Rebecca Lobach, the pilot herself, who was told repeatedly, move left, move left, move left, or turn to the left, and for whatever reason, she froze. She didn't. And hence, the Black Hawk collided right into the plane. Or B, the officials above her who promoted these woke DEI policies and wanted her to be in that Black Hawk training at that airport, even though most knew she was clearly incompetent to do so, not ready to do so. In other words, who do you ultimately blame? the pilot herself or the co-pilot herself, to be more accurate, or the people who artificially promoted her? I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in National ER. Okay, we've got 67 people dead. We've got a pilot who's made a tragic error. Sandy off air mentioned to me, and I think she may be right. People are maybe now are trying to look at the instructor, the co-pilot. Sandy's theory, and I think she may be right. I think he was in utter disbelief. In other words, well, why didn't he just take over the stick? Why didn't he just take over, take control? I think it's because, okay, air traffic control says turn left. No. Air traffic control says turn left. No. Air traffic control, hey, is saying turn left. And he just is stunned. He's just in utter disbelief that she's not turning left. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. 617-266-6868. Okay, a couple more calls and I want to change topic. Let's go to Dave in Ohio. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
And Jeff, a lot of the previous callers actually touched on some of the subjects I was going to mention, but I would like to see the pros and cons sheets on both those pilots, meaning proficiency and conduct, especially on her, what her proficiency was, what her conduct was like, how was she rated, how was she promoted up the chain. Second of all, when you fly at night, I was in the Marine Corps Aviation, so I know at night you can get fixed on a light, you can get fixed on an object and lose total depth perception of how far something actually is away from you. Think about it like driving at night and you see a full moon. When you're heading south, the thing looks huge. And then when the road curves and goes to the right, it looks smaller than it actually was. Your eyes can play tricks on you. Your depth perception can be off. But those are things that need to be looked at from a training standpoint. But I am very, very interested in the proficiency and conduct sheets on both those officers. The crew chief in the back, he's just powerless to do anything. So the two people controlling that aircraft are ultimately responsible, whether it be the warrant officer who did nothing to override the captain who was the student. That's what I want to know.
Well, Dave, let me ask you this. Do you think we'll ever get to the bottom of this? Do you think we'll ever know the truth about what really happened?
No. We'll never know. Because the only two people that actually know are dead. We'll never know. You can conjecture, you can theorize, you can look at data recorders, you can look at the evidence prior to the accident with the air traffic control telling them to turn left. You can look at all of that. But ultimately, we'll never know why inaction happened.
I think you're dead on. I think we'll ultimately never know. I think part of it is also, you're right, the two people that really know are dead. But I think it doesn't help that the government's covering it up. And I think ultimately, Rebecca Lobach had no business flying that Black Hawk. 7:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, I'm going to continue to take your calls. The table is always open for anybody to continue to talk about this story. But as you know, 100 days President Trump has been in office. Now, I'm going to really do a big show on this tomorrow, I promise. But one of the defining features of his first 100 days, and maybe the most economically controversial, has been his tariff policies. As you know, I've always been a supporter of tariffs. I am a protectionist. I am an economic patriot. I have never been a free trader. I think free trade has been a disaster for the United States. I think NAFTA, all of these trade deals we've had with Vietnam, with South Korea, with Central America, obviously Mexico and Canada under NAFTA, and now the USMCA, has been an absolute economic disaster. We have outsourced trillions of dollars of our wealth, especially to communist China. 60,000 factories, 7 million manufacturing jobs. We have deindustrialized the United States, and much of our supply chains, including our medicine, our basic medicines, but even basic technology that we need for our own military security, has been outsourced to other countries, including, yes, Beijing. It has been both national and economic suicide. And so these tariffs, in my view, are needed, necessary, and I support them not 100, but 1,000%. Now, again, we can agree to disagree. Grace certainly does, but this is my position, has been for 30 years, and I see no evidence to contradict or refute it. Now, why am I talking tariffs? Because President Trump now, on Sunday, is now offering what he's calling a new deal, a grand bargain with American middle working class people. It started in January when he set up not the Internal Revenue Service, but what he's calling the External Revenue Service, the ERS, in which he says we're going to be collecting so much money from tariffs and duties, and people now having to pay to have access to our market, that he believes we're going to generate over the next decade or so, and so does Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, maybe $1 trillion, maybe even $2 trillion. In other words, trillions of dollars. Now, you're going to say, Jeff, okay, trillions more in duties and tariffs? What's the big grand bargain? I mean, aren't prices going to be a little higher? If I want to buy something, say, from China, as Trump would pronounce it, it's going to be more expensive. If I want to buy something from Canada, it's going to be at least 25% more expensive. Mexico, it's going to be, 20, 25, 30% more expensive. So I'm going to be paying more for many consumer goods. More for bananas, more for tennis shoes, more for laptops, more for everything. So where's the grand bargain, Jeff? On Sunday, Trump now introduced this initiative, and I really want to get your take on this. 617-266-6868. Trump now says he wants Republicans in Congress, as they put together his one big, beautiful bill, to either substantially reduce income taxes for those making $200,000 a year or less, or even eliminate all income taxes, all of it, federal income taxes, not state, not the, like in Massachusetts, we got a sales tax, not the state taxes, not the local taxes. He can't do that. But federal income tax, either substantially cut it or out and out abolish or eliminate it for those making less than $200,000 a year. And so the grand bargain that Trump is now offering Americans, especially middle working class Americans, middle America, are you willing to substitute income taxes for tariffs? You pay more on some goods, in fact, many goods, until we start creating more Buy American, and more plants are coming, and more factories are coming back, and more manufacturing is coming back. So either you're going to pay a little bit more, but you're going to have a lot more disposable income. And Trump believes that in the end, this will really help not the wealthy, because they're not going to get their income taxes slashed, but it's really going to help middle America. Blue-collar people, people struggling to make ends meet, that you're going to have more money in your pocket, and you're going to have the federal government, when it comes to taxation anyway, substantially off your back. Now, let me tell you where I stand, and then I want to hear from you. And by the way, it's no surprise, Grace and I disagree on this. We talked about it last night, and no, she'd rather have cheaper goods and not have tariffs, or low, or just tariff a few industries, but keep yeah, she wants to cut taxes, but she prefers income taxes to tariffs. I'm the exact opposite. Number one, in principle, I am against income taxes. I pay my taxes, of course, I obey the law. But in principle, I am against an income tax, and I'll tell you why. I don't think it is the government's right or the government's business to take away the fruits and hard work of your labor. You work hard. The sweat of your brow is what enables you to bring home money, income to feed your family, pay for the roof over your head, and all of your bills and expenses. The government has no right to claim, essentially, ownership over your labor. Because by claiming ownership over your labor, in some ways they're claiming ownership over you, over me. I never would have passed the amendment to start an income tax in this country, personally. So, in principle, I don't like an income tax. I don't think you should tax people's income. It's their money. They worked for it. They earned it. Let them spend it how they see fit and how they choose. Furthermore, I'm a saver. Generally, I like to save. Now, I'd rather keep a lot more of my money and buy less. That's me. That's me. If I don't want to buy a lot of items, then guess what? I'm going to have a lot more money in my pocket. And I'm going to have a lot more money in my bank account. So, yes, prices will go up, of course, with tariffs. But believe me, I'm not going to be spending that much to begin with. So I'm going to be way ahead. It's going to encourage savings. It's going to encourage investment. It's going to encourage people to be much more responsible with their money. And I think in the end, it's much fairer. On a fundamental level, it is much fairer. You work, you keep what you make. And then you decide if you want to buy something and pay an extra tax on that. That's up to you. But why should the government, and in this case, if you had federal, state, sales tax, property taxes, I'm paying way over 50% in taxes. Now, this is not federal again, this is local. It broke my heart when Grace told me last night how much I had to write a check. Or actually, she wrote the check. But we had to write a check to Rentham for property taxes. I mean, it was, I'm still recovering. It was like a hammer to the head. Okay, it was over $10,000. I can't get ahead. I can't get ahead. This is a confiscatory government. I'm basically now, if I'm being taxed 50 and over % of my income, I'm essentially working 6 months, if not 7 months of the year for the government. How am I free? I mean, I'm just being brutally honest with all of you. So, I want to protect American manufacturing. I want to protect the middle class. I want to create American companies, American plants, American factories, American jobs, good paying jobs, like we used to have for hundreds of years. And like for most of our history, we had tariffs and no income tax. I don't know if we can return to that fully, but Trump is saying we may be able to get there at least halfway. for those making under $200,000 a year. I say I like this deal. What say you? Deal or no deal? 750 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very quick, because the lines are full, so I want to go right to the phone lines. Here is exactly what Trump said on Truth Social Sunday morning, saying, look, I'm putting a lot of pressure on Republicans in Congress. This is my vision for the country, and I'm doing it to help the great American middle and working class. Here's what he wrote, quote, when tariffs cut in, many people's income taxes will be substantially reduced, maybe even completely eliminated. Focus will be on people making less than $200,000 a year. Now, he also then mentions, massive numbers of jobs are already being created, with new plants and factories currently being built or planned. It will be a bonanza for America. The External Revenue Service is happening. Now, just very quick, Trump now has brought in over $5 trillion. If you want the number, it's 5.2. $5.2 trillion in new manufacturing and foreign investment in the United States. 5.2 trillion. We're looking at least 10 to 12 million jobs. Good paying American jobs. These plants and factories are being built as I speak to you. That's why Trump keeps saying, relax. The economy is going to boom. And so what he's now doing is he's putting the pieces in place for an American manufacturing renaissance. And he wants to focus not so much on the top earners. They'll do okay, obviously, under Trump. But what he really wants to do is either reduce or absolutely eliminate all federal income taxes for people making less than $200,000 a year. So, for example, I'd have 30% more in my pocket. That's a lot. I'm telling you, for me, that's a lot. That's a lot. Now, will I pay more for some products? Especially as it takes time for American companies and American manufacturing and American products to get built here? Yes. I'm more than happy. That trade-off, I win. I'm telling you, I win. Now, if I'm a big spender, and fine, I mean, some people are, it's a free country. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it doesn't work out for you. But, you know, I don't buy that much. Now, Grace, a little bit more. My kids, my God, they're not just eating me out of house and home, they're buying me out of house and home. But for me, in principle, and I've always said this, if the government can claim your labor, which is what your income is, they're basically saying they can claim you. They have a claim over your body. And I've never liked the income tax in principle, ever. So I like other ways to raise revenue. And I think tariffs, tariffs built America. The entire 19th century, the great American tariff made us an economic industrial powerhouse. No taxes. It was all through the tariff. Citizens were freer. Citizens were wealthier. Citizens were more prosperous. We developed the greatest middle class in the history of the world. Why can't we do it again? So, am I willing to substitute the tariffs for the income tax? For me, I take that deal. But that's me. I want to hear from you. Question before the House. Would you rather pay much less or even no income tax, but pay more for many goods because of the tariff? Or would you like to pay less, cheaper consumer goods, much cheaper, but you're basically paying, a good chunk of your income in an income tax? What do you think is better for the country? Where do you fall? Deal or no deal? You like, don't like? 617-266-6868 is the number. John in Lowell. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, John.
Jeff, as far as the tax question goes, I'm out because ever since the cancer, I'm well below the poverty line, my friend. I don't have to file anymore. Jeff, here's a scary thought. And I'm not saying it has anything to do with this case because her social media was scrubbed. Jeff, you do know that they can override cars, right?
Oh, so you think maybe somebody overrode the helicopter, the Black Hawk?
Jeff, I think we're hacked by China. Or not in this case, but it can be done. Anything with a computer can be overridden, Jeff. That's a scary thought.
Well, John. Oh, please go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Please go ahead, John.
Who do they have embedded in these Taiwanese factories that make the microchips? See, China might not be making them, but that doesn't mean they can't infiltrate companies that are making them, Jeff.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, it's a scary thought, but it's a very good point. No, look, John, I think there's no question Chinese espionage is everywhere. I mean, people know that. It's been widely reported. Tons of books have been written on it by very reputable people. They are penetrating our government, Congress, and I'm talking the highest echelons, our businesses, corporations, our tech sector. And so, really, you're right. The more technologically complex we become, the more vulnerable we are to exactly what you're talking about. You know, hacking and taking over planes and cars and helicopters, and there's no question. And look, the other thing, and I don't want to get too distracted, but John, since you mentioned it, AI, artificial intelligence, a lot of renowned scientists are coming out and saying AI could literally take over humanity. That we are playing with fire, we're playing with something we have no idea how to control. And already now, you are seeing billboards everywhere in the United States, in China, in Europe, where they're saying, don't hire humans. Go with AI. That's the selling point. Don't hire humans. Ay. So if we don't hire human beings, what, we're just an excess surplus population? Like, what are you going to do with us? Well, would just put us all on welfare? Or what, kill us all? I mean, I'm not trying to be, provocative. I'm just saying, don't hire humans? Ay. It's anti-human. It's anti-life. It's anti-God. And so this has got to stop. This has really got to stop. John, final word to you.
Final words to me, Jeff. I'm going to stick with the creator of all intelligence, and I'm okay. How about you?
Oh, I'm with you. God Almighty.
That's all we have left, Jeff. That's all we have left.
That's right. You're right. No, it's true. In the end, that's all that matters. John, as always, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. And again, you have some of the, and I don't want to get too off topic because I really want to stick on taxes, income tax versus the tariff. Because the tariff has been such a key part of Trump's first 100 days. But when you've got, literally, leading minds in the world, top scientists in their fields, they're not anti-technology, they're not anti-science, obviously, they're not anti-quote-unquote progress. When they're coming out warning after warning after warning, saying AI could devour us, it could be unleashing something we may never be able to control. And the media doesn't want to hear about it. And then if you just mention it, like Tucker Carlson, for example, then you're branded as a kook. Like when you challenge the jab, you're branded as a kook. When you challenge the Russia collusion hoax, oh, that's a kook. When you challenge the lockdowns, oh, that's a kook. The COVID lockdowns. So they're doing it again because they're in the money, they're in the pocket of big tech. Big tech wants AI. They can see unlimited amounts of cash and control. And that's why, oh man, they want it. God, do they want it. So they don't want anybody questioning it. They don't want anybody saying, are we sure about this? Is this the road we want to go on? And with no ethical, legal, moral guardrails put in place, doesn't matter. You can't even ask the question. To ask the question is, wee you, French, it's a crazy French right-winger, a fascist, Hitler. That's all they know how to do. Smears and lies, smears and lies. Anyway, I like tariffs. I've always liked tariffs. I've always been a tariff man. That's me. I've never liked income taxes. Of all the taxes, I think it's the worst. I prefer a sales tax, believe it or not, to an income tax. I prefer a flat tax even to an income tax. You name the tax. I prefer any tax over the income tax. I don't like taxes in general, but to me, it's the worst possible tax. And would I take this deal? Higher tariffs and lower or no income taxes? Now, you can't go all the way because you can't generate enough money just from the tariffs. So that's why it's capped at 200,000. But 200,000, that's a lot of middle working class people. And I don't know about you, but if Trump could cut all my federal income taxes or a good chunk of it, my standard of living has just gone up. I mean, it would be one of the greatest redistributions of wealth to the middle of the country in the last 60, 70 years. It'd be one of the few times that literally middle working class people would see a massive increase in their take-home pay, in their wages, and in their spending power. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Good morning, Kuhner country, where the news is accurately reported every single day, every hour of the day of the show. It is accurately reported. Thank you. This is another example of the left-stream media creating a false narrative to manipulate the thought process of the gullible. The survival of the Democratic Party depends on the left-stream media, without question. Thanks to President Trump, the cat is out of the bag. We have seen the glory of the coming of Donald Trump. This is opportunity time for the United States. We have a master negotiator running our country. To the Scumocrats, get the hell out of the way. You SOBs, I've had enough of you.
Russ, where do you stand on Trump? He says he wants to cut taxes for working middle-class people, income taxes, maybe even get rid of it, and basically substitute the revenue with tariffs, a tariff wall or tariff regime. Do you like the idea? Do you not? In other words, are you willing to pay more but have more money in your pocket?
The one thing that I do know, the balance of trade is so unbalanced. The world needs us. We're the world's best customer, okay? That's why we can win a trade war. Just apply common sense. So I am fully in favor of the trade war, raise tariffs, okay? And eventually all these countries need to come around. And the other thing, as an anti-communist, you SOBs, you lousy, rotten politicians in the corporate media, SOBs that gave all this trade to China. And the reason why China is as strong as it is right now is the trading that we've done with them over the last 30 or 40 years. Outrageous, Jeff. As both of us are anti-communist, really, we were betrayed by our government and we were betrayed by corporate America. It's time to turn the ship around.
Oh, amen. I couldn't have said it better myself. Russ, thank you very much for that call. Look, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but another thing I love about tariffs is that they restore sovereignty. Remember, if you're locked into free trade, you've lost your sovereignty. Basically now, if other countries start dumping their goods, as China has been doing, there's nothing you can do about it. Because they just keep cheating and lying. And so basically you're not able to defend the economic national security interests, frankly, the interests of your people. So tariffs restore sovereignty. That's another reason why globalists hate tariffs. So no, we decide what's in the best interests of the United States and which industries that we feel are best for our country that we want made here at home. For example, steel. Oh, we got to pay a little more? We'll pay a little more. But we're going to make sure that if we need to build tanks or missiles or fighter jets, that we have the domestic supply to do that and not be completely dependent upon, say, I don't know, China, or nothing against Japan. I love the Japanese, but Japan, or microchips that are critical for our technology, for our consumer goods, for our electronics, for our military. No, make them here. Why? Because someone could choke them off. And then what do we do? So again, insulin. Why can't we make insulin in the United States? I'm a diabetic. I take insulin. 50 units a day. Actually, no, it's 100 units a day. What am I saying? I wish. 50 in the morning, 50 at night. Now, if things get ugly with China and they cut off the insulin supply, Jeff Kuhner's up a creek without a paddle. Now, I know what many of you are going to say. Jeff, come on, take care of your health. You shouldn't be on insulin. I hear you. But my family has a history of diabetes. It's genetic. And, my father was on insulin. My father was a thin man. My father was on insulin when he was like 50, 52. My grandmother they called it sugar in the old country. But my grandmother had diabetes. My grandfather and my father's had diabetes. The Kuhners have all had diabetes. So we're genetically predisposed. Now, I could be better with my diet. I could be better with my weight. Yes, there are many things I could do. But I'm just saying, how many tens and tens of millions of Americans are diabetic and they need insulin? Well, it's a bit cheaper in China. I don't care if it's a bit cheaper in China. I'm not trying to be cavalier. Okay, you pay a little more, but you know you're going to have it. Do you want China? And by the way, I don't trust the quality in China. That's another issue. We've been getting cheap consumer goods, but a lot of it is junk. Really, seriously, it's junk. I want good quality American-made products. I'm not asking for the moon. And we've done it for most of our history, and we're starting to do it again. And if you're looking at frustration over Trump, and I will get into this tomorrow, I promise, some of these batch of polls, there was a big Fox News poll about the economy, and apparently he's underwater when it comes to the economy. By the way, I don't believe the polls, just so that you know I don't. I think they're fake polls, okay, number one. But if there is a frustration, it's the transition period with these tariffs. But, Trump told us, he goes, give me a couple months. It took us 30 years to to create this mess. Give me 3-4 months. I got to negotiate deals. We're going to do it on a country by country basis. We're going to stabilize everything. And then the economy is going to absolutely boom. So, no, I'm a tariff man. And if it could I'm a tariff man whether it leads to a cent in my income taxes being cut. But if I can get my income taxes cut, I love you in a non-sexual way. President Trump. I'll take that trade-off any day. But that's me. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Stephanie in Delaware. Thanks for holding, Stephanie, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff. Thank you so much for taking my call. I just wanted to make a quick point. about another media cover-up. I'm sure you remember when JFK Jr.'s plane went down. I believe he had 2 females with him, and they were heading up north. I think they left New Jersey, Teterboro. I'm not sure about the airport, but they were heading up north, I think, for a wedding.
Yes.
It happened overnight. I had NBC News on the next morning. I was up early, and they were interviewing an aviation expert, and he made the point that he did not have enough flight hours, nearly enough flight hours to be up on that plane. And at nighttime, you get disoriented, you lose the horizon. And he should never have been up there. And you never heard boo about that anywhere. They just went on with the accident, and of course it was tragic, but you never heard the fact that he did not have enough flight hours and he was not qualified to be up there in that plane.
Oh, you're completely right. Oh, look, Stephanie, I remember that. It was a while ago, but
yeah.
To me, I think he gambled with the lives of the people on that plane, and he had no business. And apparently, didn't he have like a broken leg or some kind of an ankle injury? Or I think he was in a cast. Correct me if I'm wrong. On top of all of that, I know he had some kind of an injury. That I know. I remember that for sure. So on top of all of that. No, you don't gamble with other people's lives. Look, you want to get on a plane, I don't think you should, but if you want to get on a plane and you don't have enough flying hours by yourself and you knew there was going to be bad conditions, he knew it. That's why he said, come on, we got to hurry, we got to go, come on, there's a storm coming. Now, because you're a thrill seeker or an adrenaline junkie, then you go up, and if you go down, you go down. But don't take other people with you. It was an incredibly selfish and reckless act. I agree with you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, text line is burning up. You can text us 70470, 70470. This is from 781. Jeff, I agree 1,000% with you, the Kuhner man. Well, thanks, 781. First principles do matter. To whom do I belong? I belong to me. If that is true, then my labor belongs to me. There is a word for when my labor belongs to someone or something else. It's called slavery. And Jeff, if anyone doubts the kind of robbery that inflation has already inflicted upon us, just think $200,000 a year income is now considered low to middle income. No, that's true. I remember even 10, 15 years ago, 200,000, was considered upper middle class. That was a really good income. Now, Trump is like, I'm going to give the middle class a break. I'm going to cut middle working class people's taxes. And you're like, okay, yeah, those who make 200,000 and less. Ay. Okay, so let me ask you. Trump now says he wants to push Republicans to get rid of income. It's not just no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security. But now he says he wants no income taxes, or if he can't get it, substantially reduced income taxes, big tax cut for those making $200,000 or less. And he says, don't worry, when the tariffs kick in, the revenue from the tariffs will offset the money for the tax cuts. You're going to pay more for goods made in other countries, but you're going to have a lot more in your pocket. Deal, no deal. You want, don't want, or do you think it's just not going to happen? Are you skeptical that it's even going to happen? 617-266-6868. Dick in Hudson. Thanks for holding, Dick, and welcome. Hello, Dick. All right, did we lose Dick? All right, let's go to, who do I'm going to go to next? Let's go to Barbara in Maryland. Thanks for holding, Barbara, and welcome.
I wanted to let you know I agree with you 100% about these tariffs. Everything that President Trump is doing, and I got some text messages from friends of mine, because a lot of the black media, like Black Enterprise, they're raising sand about the audits that are affecting some of the black organizations, the black museums and all. You know what? Everybody needs to take a chill pill. There's nothing wrong with audits. That's what's happening here. Every taxpayer should be very happy that all of that is going on. And as for the tariffs, it's a necessary thing. It should have never stopped, in my opinion. We should not have allowed China to have this much power over us. And I'm with you. I'm not a diabetic, but a lot of my family members are. It is a family thing with my family. I've just been, blessed, and, I take herbs. But I don't trust them. Why would we trust our enemy to make our meds? I have a problem with that.
I agree. No, Barbara, it's such common sense. You're completely right. But please keep going. You're on a roll.
We got aspirin coming from there. They could poison us. And let me tell you, if they don't care about sheetrock, remember the stuff about the sheetrock? They sent us the substandard steel, but the sheetrock that was making people sick, that was going into homes, that they had to stop getting that stuff from China. How do you know what else is in their stuff? You know what I'm saying? I am so excited about our country getting busy, people getting jobs. What needs to happen now, all of our public schools need to start doing trade programs in the 9th grade. Everybody doesn't go to college. As a matter of fact, most people don't go to college. But what we have now, we have unskilled labor. We have a lot of high school graduates, some of them who can't read or write. But not only that, they don't have any skills. They don't have the ability to do anything with their hands. And that's what needs to happen here. We got to become builders and manufacturers. I'm excited about it. I guess because I'm old school. I have Bassett furniture. I have a rice bed that I bought in 1990 that still doesn't squeak or anything. The wood is still just as good as it was. It came from North Carolina. That's where our stuff used to come from.
Oh, I know, Barbara. Look, no, you're right. No, North Carolina used to be like the furniture mecca of the United States, and they used to make outstanding furniture. Exactly what you're talking about. Products that last 30, 35, 40 years. And even after 40 years, they're great, they're solid, they're sturdy. You just say, well, let's get rid of it because it looks so outdated, right? But you can keep it for another 20 years. Like, that's the kind of good quality we used to make in this country. And now we sold our souls for trinkets from China. Just garbage, dreck. Honestly, just cheap garbage. And now they're acting like the sky is falling. The media is in particular, because Trump has said, no, those days are over. I'm not going to outsource our jobs, our factories, our wealth to communist China and other countries around the world. No, the jobs are going to come back and they're going to stay back. So, Barbara, as always, thank you so much for that call. And yes, you should be thinking about trade schools, because there's going to be a lot more manufacturing jobs, and we're going to need to fill them with Americans. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Trump's 100 days. Polls say that the economy, most Americans disapprove of his handling of the economy, in particular tariffs. Do you agree? I'm just curious. Do you agree? Do you like what Trump has done on the economy in his first 100 days? Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. So today, there will be a major address by the President of the United States on his first 100 days in office. And if you listen, I'm going to do, I promise, a complete, thorough, comprehensive show tomorrow on every aspect of his 100 days. I just want to focus now on the economy, because that's the key issue by which the media elites are really attacking Trump. So it is almost a media consensus that Trump's 100 days have been a disaster. In fact, this is, and by the way, they're going to use this talking point now, and they're going to repeat it ad nauseum, until the midterm elections. They're going to repeat it again and again and again. That Trump has failed, that Trump is tanking the economy, that the economy is in a tailspin, and that his tariffs, above all, his tariffs, are now sinking the stock market, sinking future economic growth, and essentially now causing Americans to face real financial pain. And so the Murdoch empire, I'm not talking about the usual suspects, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Boston Globe, this is CNN, MSDNC, the Associated Press. I'm not talking about the usual suspects. They are blasting Trump, saying, and they're citing these, batches of polls, saying that in the first 100 days of Obama's presidency, the first 100 days of Biden's presidency, they claim that Trump has a lower approval rating than either Biden or Obama. And although they admit that his border policies are popular, they say where he's really underwater, and they say it's a shock because generally the economy and the handling of the economy is supposed to be Trump's calling card. They say there is so much economic disapproval on inflation, on tariffs, on cost of living, on jobs, on the stock market, on economic growth, that he is now underwater, and that this threatens to it's threatening to destroy his entire presidency. Now, the Murdoch empire is really now starting to go after Trump. The Rupert Murdoch empire. The three pillars of the Murdoch empire. They have a lot of papers in the United States, in Great Britain, but for our concerns, it's Fox News, which is in some ways their crown jewel, the New York Post, and of course, this is their intellectual pillar, is the Wall Street Journal. Much of the content on Fox News comes from the Wall Street Journal. Not all, but a lot of it. The Wall Street Journal has been waging a jihad against Trump pretty much on everything, but especially on tariffs. Their editorial page, it's op-ed after op-ed, editorial after editorial. If you want, here, this is today's op-ed. Sorry, this is today's lead editorial. Trump's 100 Days 2.0, the shocks of his tariff threaten to sink his presidency. Every second article is about the tariffs, how they're hurting Americans, hurting American businesses. Nobody wants to plan for the future. Nobody wants to invest. The world hates us. The world is united against us. Investors are fleeing. People are panicking. Everybody's unhappy. Farmers are unhappy. Consumers are unhappy. Everybody. Businesses are unhappy. Everybody's unhappy. It has gotten so bad, Fox News came out with a big poll showing that outside of the border, Trump is deeply unpopular, massive disapproval from the voters on jobs, on the economy, on the stock market, just literally across the board. And Trump has now come out and said that he believes Murdoch is trying to bring down his presidency. You can tell, not the primetime shows. They're still with Trump because they know that's their bread and butter. So I'm not talking about Laura Ingraham or Jesse Waters or Sean Hannity or that group, that cluster. But you go from Bret Baier earlier, especially their daytime afternoon programming, and man, it's changed. It's changed. The Wall Street Journal, as I said, it's really no different from the New York Times. It's become an anti-Trump rag. The New York Post is now attacking Trump over and over and over and over again. So there is almost a media consensus that Trump's first 100 days, if you can believe it, have been a disaster, especially an economic disaster. Now, let me give you my take quickly, and then I want to go to you, the great audience of Kuhner Country. 617-266-6868 is the number. Look, on one level, to be brutally honest with all of you, there is a question mark over Trump's 100 days, an economic question. By the way, I think he's had a phenomenal 100 days, as I'm going to really describe and lay out tomorrow in detailed terms. I think he's had the best 100 days, maybe of any president in history. I think the media is lying. I don't believe these polls. Frankly, I don't. I don't see it to people I talk to. I don't see it in my personal life. I do the shopping in our family. So I don't believe it. And I think it's another hoax. I think they're trying to talk down the economy, to crash the stock market, to create a recession, but they want to keep up a narrative now. Trump is a failure, his economy is bad, and they want to drive this all the way to November so they can get the Democrats back in power to impeach him. But to be fair, there is a lingering question mark on one aspect of Trump's 100 days. And he himself has admitted it. So I'm not saying anything controversial. The book is still out on the tariffs. Can he break China? We shall see. Can he cut good deals with India and Canada and Mexico and the European Union and South Korea and Japan and Vietnam? I think he will, but we shall see. So I don't think we'll be able to fully judge and properly assess how good or how effective Trump's first 100 days were really until about maybe the end of the summer, early spring, early fall. When the deals are put in place, the deals are made, the tariffs now are really properly, fully implemented, they have the right percentages, so we're going to have to wait and see. But on everything else, remember, in April, they said the stock market crashed. By the way, they still go on about the stock market crash. How did it crash? The market now is higher than it was 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. So most of the losses, in fact, all of the losses in the stock market have been recouped. And the media is going on about, seriously, these are their headlines. This has been the worst April in the stock market since the Great Depression. That's a lie. I mean, it's a blatant lie. So, no, there's no question about it. The stock market now regained everything that was lost. In fact, it's slightly above now. So, the stock market hasn't collapsed. That's a lie. Inflation has gone down. Should it be lower? Yes. Do I want it lower? Yes. I mean, who doesn't? I do the shopping. I'm paying less for food. Not much less, but vegetables, I'm sorry, they're down. Fruits, again, too expensive, but down. Everything, even eggs. Eggs are coming down. So, I look at my grocery bill, it's going down. Gas, I've noticed a difference. I fill up my tank. It used to be 75, 80 bucks. Under Trump, 60. Now, I'm saving 15 to 20 bucks every time I tank up. So, I'm saving money on gas. So, tanking up costs less. Groceries and food, less. Basic staples, less. Now, the only thing that continues to go up is my energy bill. But that's not Trump. That's Maura Healey. And it's going to continue to go up unless we do something. Now, but his energy policies are kicking in. Drilling is kicking in. His deregulation is kicking in. Trump's first 100 days. Let's just talk about the economy. I promise we'll talk about the whole thing tomorrow. The whole kit and caboodle, as they say. And do you believe these polls? Do you agree with these polls? That you're not satisfied with Trump's job performance on the economy? Now, I just want to read something I got from Joe. He messaged me this maybe about 20 minutes ago. And I think he speaks for some of you. Jeff, and he's obviously a Trump supporter, loves Trump, but he's just saying, hey, look, you want my personal reflections, Jeff? My own personal experience? Here it is. Jeff, last night, I went to Dollar General in the Brockton area. I needed a pair of insoles for my work boots. I buy them there regularly to help my feet stay comfortable since I work hard. Joe's in construction. The price went up from $9 to $10.75. I would have passed on the inflation, but what could I do? I had to go to work in the morning. Now, I messaged Joe back. Maybe he's busy. Maybe he's even working, on the job site. So I said, Joe. I said, hey, I'm sorry to hear that, really. I said, look, I just want to ask you, point blank, do you think the economy is better or worse under Trump compared to Biden? And I don't know what Joe's answer is. But in other words, look, he's just saying, look, Jeff, I can just tell you my own personal experience. I needed insoles. I went to the dollar store, went from $9 to $10.75. That's almost $2. I needed the soles. So what can I do? But in other words, inflation is not going down. It's going up, at least on some things. And people are still hurting. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868. What say you? Trump's first 100 days on the economy. You are happy, not happy. Like, don't like. Tommy in West Virginia. Thanks for holding, Tommy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
how
Tommy.
are you doing?
Good. I mean, I'm sick, but besides that, I'm doing okay.
All right. Well, I mean, the one thing I've seen as far as the economy, gasoline is cheaper down here in West Virginia now. And eggs have come down somewhat. What used to cost $6 at Lewisburg and Walmart for the brown eggs, they're down to $5 now. So things are starting to move in the right direction. Now, as far as the tariffs, if Trump's people are listening, he's got to make it clear that, yes, in the short term, things probably will go up that are made in China. He also needs to state that during the pandemic, to his credit, he brought out the fact that our prescription drugs are made in China as well as India. Biden had 4 years to do something about that, as well as the Democrats. What did they do about that? Absolutely nothing. So the other thing that with regards to China and their cheap goods, I was working out of Local 48, IBEW in Portland, Oregon, back in 1998. What does this have to do with stuff made in China? At Portland International Airport in July of that year, 5 iron workers died because the connector bolts that were made in China failed, and these men fell to their death. I remember that day. It was a horrible. Vancouver, Washington was where I lived. It's like Cambridge, Boston, right across the Columbia River. I will never forget that. So those iron workers that are possibly listening, you understand what a connector bolt is. It's not the permanent bolt once you bolt the building skeleton together. And with regards to China, they've been flexing their muscles. As you know, that I have a fiance in the Philippines. And these people that are defending China understand what China is doing in the Philippines. They're taking their Chinese Coast Guard, and if they have fishermen in a contested area, they're spraying these guys with water. And some have drowned because of that. They're just poor fishermen. And the average wage in the Philippines is $10 a day. Get a clue. And I have an ex-classmate that she's defending, Abrego Garcia, and that other slob from Latin America that are both wife beaters. She's the one who told me on Facebook that she gave up on men because her first husband was an abuser, a domestic abuser. And it's like, I just can't figure these people out. It's like, wait a minute. Why would you defend someone that beats a woman? I don't know, Jeff. Michael Savage coined the phrase, liberalism is truly a mental disorder. And I really think that is true. And I would love to hear Bill call in on Friday from Sudbury and explain how China should be allowed to dump their goods into our country. And just for the record, the house in Brockton, I have 2 Samsung products. The washing machine after 8 years broke. It was $600 when I purchased it. At the cabin in West Virginia, I have a Maytag washing machine I bought at Leach Mears in 1984. It still works. It's a top loader. I have a dryer that was made by Magic Chef that I bought in 1990. Both still work. You know, it's not hard
Tommy,
to figure
and
out.
just to connect the dots, you're saying that your $600 washer was made in China, but the Maytag that says 40 years old was made in America, correct?
That is correct. In the Samsung parts, the manufactured parts are made in China and Vietnam. They're assembled here in South Carolina. All right. Which that's good. I mean, it's like a Hyundai. They're assembled down, or a Kia. They're assembled down in Alabama, but the manufactured parts are made over in Korea or wherever else. You know, so I understand you can't do 100% American made, but the point being is that the stuff that I have here in West Virginia was made in this country. And by the way, I have 2 refrigerators. I have an Admiral refrigerator that goes back to the early 50s. That still works. And then on the front porch where I store my deer meat after I've shot it, that has the old round condenser up top. That was pre-World War II. It still works. So,
I know.
You know,
Tommy, it's incredible. No, you're right. Tommy, you're on fire today. Tommy, thank you very, very much for that call. I've got 2 freezers in my garage. Oh, at least 45 years old. Maybe 50, okay? I don't want to... 45 years old, okay? I have to be very on the conservative side. Made in America. Made in America. They still work great. And what I mean work great, it's like everything I put in there, cold. I mean, within an hour, it's nice and chilly. It's, frankly, I confess here, I put my Diet Cokes in there. Well, 1 hour, you should see them. I mean, I got another thing upstairs, which I paid a ton of money for from China, which I didn't know. We just bought it. And I put my Cokes in that thing, my Diet Cokes, 12 hours, 14 hours. I'm like, did this thing even go in there? I mean, it's a little cold, but boy, not much to speak of. But that baby, American made, 40-some years old, it's as cold now. It comes, and everything comes out as cold now as when it was made 45 years ago. And I remember my dad used to tell me this growing up. He would just shake his head over and over again. He goes, I don't understand. I don't understand this. Why are we not having things made here? We're making stuff around the world, bringing it here. And he said, it's just junk. It's just junk. And everything used to be made in North America, and it was great quality. And yeah, you pay less, but look what you're getting. Like in the end, you got to, it breaks down after a couple of years. Like you got to buy it again. You got to buy it again. My dad used to say, you end up, losing a lot of money. You're not saving money. You're losing money. Okay, you pay a little bit more for a fridge, but the thing lasts you 40, 50 years. You got an incredible fridge. And no maintenance. Both of the fridges in my garage, no maintenance ever, ever, ever. Plug, unplug. That's it when we moved them. That's it. And you keep them plugged and they're incredible. These things. I got a dishwasher upstairs, okay? Made in China. What a piece of crap. What a piece of crap. Why do you think we ate out last night? It broke down again. I mean, sink is full of dishes. Ray says this is ridiculous. Can't cook because there's nowhere, where you're going to put all the dishes. So, kids bamboozled me into Chipotle. But, let that go. The point being, I can't tell you how many times a maintenance man has come. So, yeah, it was initially cheaper. Okay. Do you know how much I've paid in maintenance costs? I'll pay more. And just give me better quality. I'm telling you, you're saving money in the long run. That's another, again, tariffs versus income taxes. I know we kind of moved on a little bit from that. But please, this has been my philosophy my whole life. Pay a little more, but pay for good quality. You get what you pay for. You buy junk, you get junk. So when you're paying and it's bargain basement super cheap, well, you're going to get super cheap stuff. So yeah, pay a little more, but it's good quality. I'm telling you, in the end, you end up saving money. And don't you just want to have a good quality product? That was the one thing about Americans. We were we had very high standards. Always. Everybody would say that. They go, boy, the Americans, they want really good cars. Oh, their electronics, it's got to be really top of the line. Whatever. Sneakers, they want really good sneakers. They don't want the stuff that just tears apart after 4 weeks. Now, as long as it's cheap. That's globalism, the last 30 years. Cheap, 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 cheap. That's all. Just cheap, cheap, cheap. The cheaper, the better. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Let's go to Mike. Let's go to Tom in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Great show as always.
Thank you, Tom.
Jeff, the tariffs, Trump is trying to do the right thing, but it's not going to work. Let me explain why. Between the 1820s to 1930s, this country had tariffs. And it worked because all the goods here were made in the United States. All the companies here made their goods in the United States. So it worked. But now what has happened is that these tariffs are not on China. They call these Chinese tariffs. They're tariffs on American companies. All the American companies are making their goods in China. Apple, Nike. So it's a tax on American companies, not on China. So they're going to fight back. And they're going to bury the economy. They're already starting to do it now. You watch May, June. There's going to be empty shelves. They're holding back their inventory that they've been ordering for the last 3 or 4 months, Walmart, all the stores. And then when things fall apart, they'll restock the shelves and sell it at the higher price. And inflation will take off. They'll blame it on Trump because the American companies, the big money people, don't want these tariffs because they're making money in China. In fact, the Chinese government has been running ads, for even, say, me and you. Gucci bags are made in China, okay? And they say, if you want to come here, these Gucci bags cost $100 to make here. You can come here, make maybe not Gucci, but different type of bags. And the companies, Nike, Apple, they're all cleaning up. So it's not China. It's the American companies, and they're going to fight back, and that's why it's not going to work. I understand what Trump's trying to do. He's trying to bring the jobs back here and all that. But that's gone. It's gone out the window. In 1930, Smoot-Hawley, at first, it was successful. Don't listen to these people. Milton Friedman, the economist, said that the tariffs had very little to do with the Great Depression. When Smoot-Hawley passed in 1930, the economy picked up a little bit. Unemployment went down. But then the banks over in Europe fell apart, and there was retaliation by the entire world against the United States on tariffs because in 1927, the League of Nations, in 1928, they passed a resolution. They met, and they said tariffs must be ended. So, of course, when in 1930, Smoot-Hawley, they retaliated all the countries, so that hurt. And then exports dropped 60% in this country, across the world. So that's why it won't work. Now, what he should do for national security is bring the pharmaceuticals back here. He can sell that. You can put a national order, whatever. Target those tariffs so our pharmaceuticals all have to be made here for our national defense.
No, I hear you. No, Tom, look, I hear you. But even if you do those targeted tariffs that you're talking about, it's going to lead to a lot of economic dislocation. I mean, Pfizer, Merck, Moderna, they're not happy. That's my point. So if you're, in the expression, in for a penny, in for a pound, if you're going to do it, do it. Now, you're right. China's not solely to blame. I agree with you. It takes two to collaborate. It takes two to tango. You're right. Apple betrayed this country. I'm going to be very honest about it. I think Bill Gates, Microsoft, betrayed this country. I think these globalists are traitors. And it all really began in the 1990s. They abandoned the United States of America. They made their initial money here and made them a fortune. And then they said, no, China's the future. And so they outshored much of their companies and much of their production to take advantage of the cheap labor in China, in exchange for which, this is the part that I find really disgusting, they gave them intellectual property. They gave them our technology. And China now has risen on our backs. And we have now, see, whether we like it or not, Tom, take it away from the ivory tower, the Milton Friedmans and the economists and the theoretical, and put it down to the real. We have now created a Frankenstein's monster. And that's what Trump realizes. We have created an economic military powerhouse that wants to dominate Asia and ultimately dominate the world. Now, we can either just slink away and say, shrug our shoulders and say, well, there's not much we can do about it. Or we can say, no, enough is enough. The days of feeding the Chinese dragon are over. And tell Tim Cook at Apple, for example, as Trump did, you've got two choices. You can either partner with China or you can partner with us. You're not riding two horses anymore. Now, Apple says they're going to bring a lot of their production back. Let's see. But he's got a commitment from Apple. He's got a commitment now from NVIDIA. That's huge. Huge. That they're going to make big plants in Texas, in Arizona. So China now is losing a lot of these companies. Now, either we do it or we don't. Now, if we don't, I'm telling you, we're going to continue with these record trade deficits, and eventually, within 5-10 years, with the debt that we have, combined with these trade deficits, we're finished. We're finished. Or we can stand up and try to get a lot of these jobs in manufacturing and factories back. And I think Trump's going to do it. And you're right, China's against us. The globalists are against us. Corporate America is miserable. They hate him. That, to me, by the way, is the big lie of Trump's 100 days. That somehow Trump is doing the bidding of the oligarchs. Are you kidding me? Like, nothing shows you how stupid the media and the Democrats are for them to even say something like this. Wall Street hates Trump. The oligarchs, corporate America, hates Trump. Why? Because they hate the tariffs. Look at the Wall Street Journal. They want to hang the guy, for God's sake. So he's not doing this to benefit the corporate elites, the greedy so-called billionaires. No. He's doing it, and this is the first president I've seen do this since Reagan, saying, no, the economy is not going to work for the wealthy. It's going to work for the middle working class. I'm putting their interests first. And so, to me, that the battle lines have been drawn. Now, they're going to push this media narrative that the economy is tanking and that this is Trump's economy and it's bad, it's only going to get better. I think the reality on the ground is going to be very different. And I think the economy is only going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. But that's me. Tom, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. So, look, I personally already feel, I think when I'm at the gas pump, it's better. Grocery store, better. Even eating out, it's still expensive, but not quite as much. So I am seeing inflation taper off a little bit. A little bit. So all the doom and gloom hasn't happened. The stock market has not crashed. That's a lie. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, many of you Kuhner country are taking the Kuhner man to task. And again, it's about my parenting. Obviously, many of you think I'm not strict enough on my kids. I mean, it's pretty, yeah, Mike's saying surprise people think that. You're very funny, Mike. So Sandy and Mike think the same thing, but anyway, so this is from 617. Jeff, how come you don't stand at the kitchen sink and wash and dry like I used to as a kid growing up with my mother? She made me do it. Well, you know, to be like I'm in the confessional, 617, I think I have pneumonia. Like I've really been sick the last couple days. So I really don't feel well. And I don't want to, get people sick. But the bigger question is, how come or Grace and I don't have Ashton and Ava? The dishwasher's broken. Guys, move your ass. Wash and dry the dishes. That's a very good question. I mean, my mother made me wash and dry the dishes. My father told me to help my mother wash and dry the dishes. My sister did as well. I didn't die. My sister, pardon me, Mike? Well, it's funny you should mention that. Mike says they'll force you to make the switch to paper plates. We already do use paper plates often. I swear to you. Because the kids were like, oh, come on, Dad. We don't want to have to unload the dishes from the sink into the dishwasher. Let's use paper plates. So, for example, breakfast, they have cereal in a paper bowl. I'm not kidding. But anyway, so, yeah, I think I should be tougher on the kids. I mean, what are you going to do? But your larger point, I should make the kids do the dishes. Yes. Or as Grace would say, be a man, for God's sake. Okay, 617 also makes the point, and this is so true. Now, this goes back about maybe 30 years, 20 years. Jeff, do you remember going way back? It was Jack Welch from General Electric, GE. He was the guy that started all of this outsourcing to China. And at the time, everybody in the media was saying, oh, he's the world's greatest businessman. He walked on water. Yet now, nobody seems to remember. It started with him. And they all began, this was a couple years in the 90s, and then it just took off about how everybody's got to start going to China, that they make great stuff at incredibly low prices, that China was the future. And now look at the price that we're paying. I agree. 617, I agree. This is from a dear friend of mine. And he texted me on my private phone. And I think it sums up our discussion really brilliantly. Jeff, I'm sitting in a rocking chair that belonged to my grandmother, which likely was made in North Carolina in the early 1900s. I cooked breakfast today in her cast iron skillets, which are more than 100 years old. All made in America, and all work as well today as a century ago. These are symbolic, I concede, but they symbolize something very real. I agree. I completely agree. American made was coveted by the whole world. We used to make things, and they were good quality at a good price. And now, what do we make? Seriously, what do we make? And Trump is looking around and he's saying, I'm going to inherit this country to my children and grandchildren? No way. No way. And so that's why, frankly, I back him on the tariffs. And honestly, I think his 100 days have been incredible. I'm not saying he hasn't made mistakes. Nobody's perfect. But I think his 100 days, I could not personally have asked for a better 100 days. Again, more arrests. I mean, that's tomorrow's show, okay? More arrests. Not that happy with Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, certain things. But overall, I think it's been an incredible 100 days. Okay, many of you are saying, Jeff, inaccurate. I never want to give you false information. Because of the tariffs, Jeff, Apple has fast-tracked moving their operations, yes, out of China, but into India. So I'm sorry, I confused Apple with NVIDIA. My bad. NVIDIA is bringing many of their operations here. Texas and Arizona, a lot of jobs, huge investment. Apple is getting out of China to avoid the tariffs, and they're going to India, which is going to have tariffs, but much lower tariffs than China, as Trump would say. So even Apple is moving. China's losing this trade war. There's no question. The media is not telling you this, but they're losing, and they're starting to lose bad. Brian in Billerica. Thanks for holding, Brian, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning.
Hi, Brian.
Listen, I'm going back to your question from about an hour ago. Obviously, I would take the no income taxes over higher prices, but I just don't see that happening. Certainly not any time in the next couple of years. Here's my biggest problem with Trump, who I did support reluctantly. I'm not a diehard Trump supporter. He just wasn't honest with us about this. I challenge you to find anywhere during the campaign where he said we're going to endure some short-term pain. It was always things are going to be better from day one. Prices are going to be down from day one. I don't know what you're seeing in the grocery store. I am seeing slightly cheaper gas prices, but I'm not seeing any difference in my grocery bill. So when he follows things up with, oh, now I'm going to eliminate your taxes, I just don't trust the guy anymore. I think he's making it up as he goes along.
Brian, can you please hang on? Because I want to ask you, do a compare and contrast between the economy under Biden and the economy under Trump. Okay, I want to go right back to Brian and Billerica just very quickly. Getting a lot of complaints, a lot of emails, messages on Messenger, text messages. Jeff, streaming is down, computer problems, can't listen to your show, Alexa. Please, what you do is download the iHeart app. So wherever you're listening on the show, listening to this show, download the new iHeart Radio app. And you download it with the preset buttons. That's what you want. And then you put your preset to WRKO, i.e. the Kuhner Report. And literally, you can set the app to play the Kuhner report automatically. You will have no problem. You will listen to the show 4 hours, not a single interruption, not a single problem whatsoever. So please just download the iHeart app, the radio app, with the preset buttons, and then set the app to play the Kuhner report, and it will play it automatically every single day for you. 617-266-6868. Stuff on YouTube, stuff on Alexa, stuff on other streaming services or platforms we can't control. The iHeart app, we control. Okay, let's go right back to Brian in Billerica. Brian voted for Trump, as he said, held his nose more grudgingly, reluctantly, wasn't happy with Biden or Kamala. But he says, yes, gas is down a little bit when he goes to tank up. But he says food, no. And overall, he believes that Trump has not done a good job on the economy. Have I summed up your position accurately, Brian?
Yeah, the only thing I would add, Jeff, is I just feel as though he was not honest with us on the campaign trail. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't recall him saying a single time that things were going to be rough for a while. It was all, it's going to be great from day one. I mean, and I know campaign talk is campaign talk, but I mean, even, gosh, the war in Ukraine, that was going to be over the day after he was elected, before he was inaugurated. No, I don't want to go down that path. Totally different kettle of fish. But on the economy, am I worse off? No, but I am certainly not better off. I'm status quo. I'm treading water, with the exception of I've lost about 7% in my 401k. And, this talk about, well, the market's going to come back doesn't help me, because I'm 60 years old. And I was on track to retire a little bit early, around 63. That's out the window now. Not going to happen for me.
Brian, if you could go in a time machine, I'm just curious, and go back to November 2024, would you have changed your vote, or would you still have voted for Trump?
That's a tough question. But I think based on, for me, it comes down to honesty, Jeff. And based on the promises this guy made, or the lack of information that he gave us in order for me to make an intelligent decision, it'd be tough to pull the trigger for him. Again, I'd probably say, what the heck, I'll roll the dice and give the Democrats another shot. I mean, I'm an independent. I always say I'm part of the majority party in Massachusetts, but with us independents are like people without a party, really, because we've got nobody in really down the middle for us. It's tough.
Brian, thank you very much for that call, and thank you for your honesty. I really appreciate it. So Brian voted for Trump, again, reluctantly, but he says, look, my quality of life, status quo, really has not gotten better, except the stock market hurt his 401k. So, I think I would guess if he was polled, he's one of those saying, disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy. Agree, disagree. Are you seeing the same thing? I'm not seeing it personally, but that's me. I'm not saying Brian is experiencing what he's experiencing. When I go to the grocery store, to me, prices have gone down. Overall, again, not much. I mean, I'm not saying, whoa, I'm living large. I have noticed there's it's a downward tick. It is starting to cool and taper off. But that's me. 617-266-6868. Mel in New York. Thanks for holding, Mel, and welcome.
Yes, good morning, Jeff. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Mel?
A bit better, a bit worse. As far as as far as Mike, he was asking about who I liked in the Derby this year. The horse is American Promise. I told him American Pride, D. Wayne Lucas's horse, American Promise. He won the Virginia Derby very easily under a tight hole. So that horse, he's still got a lot left in the tank. But Jeff, all of our prices.
Mel, the reason why the reason why Mike asks, he's not a big gambler, but I'm saying he likes to put a few bucks on sports betting. So Mel, I think he's going to take your advice and put a few bucks on that pony. But, all right, Mel, please, go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, your last caller, President Trump, he can never, no one could ever do his work as bad as Joe Biden did to us. So, I don't know where he's coming from, this guy. But, anything's an improvement. Even nobody can mess up a soup sandwich, anyway. And nobody can mess up as bad as Biden did. So whatever Trump's doing right now is the best for America. No other politician has got the nerve or the chutzpah to even try to right the ship that we are riding in off course. But anyhow, the economy is centered around fuel cost, and what we got in the way fuel's coming down. So those truckers, they're not going to absorb the cost for us as far as high fuel prices. We're going to end up paying for it. And can you blame them? No, I don't blame them. So, to get what we consume from farm to market, they're not going to absorb our cost. So, it trickles down to us. But now things are coming down. Excuse me for I'm somewhat out of breath. I'm just getting my 2-year-old, his baby, thoroughbred.
I was going to say, you sound like you're wrestling with the horse there, Mel. But but Mel, look, as usual, Mel, look, you're, again, full of common sense. I agree with you. See, I think the more gas comes down, natural gas, oil, what we pay at the pump, you're going to see prices overall are going to continue to drop. And I want to go back to what you said earlier. And this to me, and I mean this with no disrespect to Brian, I'm very happy he called. I really am. Biden was killing me. No, really. I mean, no president, even Obama, I didn't like Obama, but no president economically, there's no other word, devastated me, damaged me the way Joe Biden did. I mean, inflation exploded under Biden. Gas skyrocketed, groceries, food, my heating, my electricity. I mean, everything went through the roof to the point that it was costing me and average Americans literally several $1,000s more a month, not a year, a month. To me, so I kind of feel a little bit like, look, he's only been in power 3 months. Give the guy a bit of a chance. Now, where I do think Brian, to be fair, now Trump did say there were going to be tariffs. He did say that. But to be fair to Brian, Trump never said during the campaign trail, hey, it's, we're going to have a couple of rocky 4, 5, 6 months. He did not say that. But, what did you expect? He was going to impose tariffs. I think tariffs are the right policy. I always have. He's trying to undo not just 4 years of Bidenism, but really 30 years of globalism. I think the man has earned some time. So let's give him some time. But my quality of life, I remember those Biden years. They were horrible. Horrible. And it's not just that prices skyrocketed. They just kept going up and up and up. There was no end. Here, I feel it stopped, and now it's coming down. I wish it would go down quicker, deeper. I agree. But they're going down. But that's me. 617-266-6868. Honestly, I mean, many of you are reacting saying, Jeff, time machine going back to November 2024, knowing what Harris, Biden, and the Democrats were planning to do to America, it's a no-brainer. I agree. But, Brian listens to the show, and I always want to respect people who faithfully, honestly listen to the show. And so Brian gave us his perspective. 617-266-6868. Okay, Mike in Brighton. Thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning. Hey, the couple of points. You've gone over so many different ideas since I've been on, but a couple of things. Number one, I think Trump's doing a great job. I think he's doing such a good job that the power people don't want his stuff to succeed, because that's where all their control is. If they control what we have to pay for goods, they ramp up the stuff we need for necessities. And they charge what they want. What ends up happening is with the tax structure and getting rid of taxes on the middle class, that frees us up and gets us out of the control of the one world government people or the politicians. The politicians' base of power is in redistributing our money that they're collecting. If they don't have the tax base from the middle class, they can't hold that over us, and we can buy and sell what we want at our own pace. So I can buy a TV if I need it, but if I don't need it, I don't buy it. They won't have that money coming back through the coffers right back to the Democrats by way of donations from all of the big globalists. So they're losing money on three different fronts. They're losing money on possibly on the Social Security scam. They're losing money from the elites because they're not kicking back because they're not selling the things that they want to sell from other countries to the United States. And they're losing the tax base, which is their money to control us. So if they lose all three of those, Trump's done a fabulous job. He's taken us out of the dark ages.
Oh, brilliantly. Brilliant. I mean, brilliantly laid out. Absolutely brilliantly laid out. And Mike, if I can just piggyback off of what you're saying. See, this is why, and I knew this, and the reason why I was against free trade very early in the 1990s, because George Soros was giving the game away. By the way, even Bill Clinton, even Hillary Clinton behind the scenes were giving speeches. They said, no, we want a North American Union. I'm like, what? They go, no, we're going to do a deal with Mexico and Canada, NAFTA, but that's just a trade deal. The trade deal is going to lead to eventually a political union. And then we're going to have a common currency like the EU. So I realized very early on, this was nothing to do with trade. It never was. It was part of the New World Order. And you nailed it. We have no control over our country, over our economy, over our money. We're all, now, because of these so-called free trade deals, we are tied down. We can't defend ourselves. We can't defend our sovereignty. We can't protect our jobs, our factories, our manufacturing. But the tentacles all led to China. China was the big winner. And China was always going to be the big winner. And then you're right. They tax middle class, working class people to the point now, let's be honest, we're almost serfs. I mean, we're not serfs, but you know what I'm saying. How hard do we have to work just to barely pay the bills and keep a roof over our head and, feed our families? My wife has to work. I have to work. Most people, it's a 2-income family. So all you're doing is working to basically, just provide for your family and get by. Well, you're not free. And then you throw in the education system. I know you didn't mention that, but you throw in the education system, the public indoctrination, and boom, there you go. So what Trump is doing is he's freeing us economically. We're becoming economically independent. He's also empowering us economically, jobs, manufacturing, factories. He's going to cut our burden, our tax burden on the working middle class. So we have more of our own money, which, as you rightly say, look, who says you got to buy a television the moment you want it? Save up. Relax. My parents did it. It's not the end of the world. Put a little money, squirrel it away. You squirrel a little bit more. And then after 6 months or 8 months or 9 months or a year, whatever, you buy what you want. But you control what you want to buy. With the way the system is now, they control our income. They they take more. See, that's the thing with the income tax. It never ends. It goes up and up. They take more and more and more. So you're right. Globalism is dying. Communism is dying. And freedom is surging. National freedom, personal freedom, economic freedom. Dynamite call, Mike. Dynamite call. Okay, I'm less than a minute, so I can't squeeze in another call. But and by the way, think about it. What has he done with the border? He's secured the border. So what he's doing is he is restoring our national freedom and our national sovereignty. We're no longer at the mercy of the globalists. We are a sovereign country again, with, God willing, a wealthy, prosperous middle class, working class, as the backbone of this sovereign, independent country. It's been the greatest 100 days, I think, in American history. I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow. Mike, how much time left? I got to go. Bye-bye.